12-year-old Mia loved exploring the woods behind her house. But when the mean HOA president caught her there, he did something terrible. He tied her up with zip ties and left her alone. What happened next would change their entire neighborhood forever and send a powerful man to prison. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The sun was setting over Willow Creek, a quiet suburban neighborhood with neat lawns and identical houses. Kids usually played in the streets until dark, but today 12-year-old Mia was nowhere to be seen. Her father, Tom, stood on the porch, his phone pressed to his ear, worry creeping into his voice. "Mia? Where are you, sweetheart?" he said, pacing. No answer. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Tom's gut twisted. Mia was never late for dinner, and she always texted if she was staying out with friends. Something was wrong. Mia was a curious kid, always exploring. She loved the small wooded area at the edge of the neighborhood, even though the HOA president, Gerald Baxter, had declared it off-limits to kids. Gerald was a short, balding man with a permanent scowl, who ruled Willow Creek like his personal kingdom. He put up no trespassing signs everywhere, claiming it was for safety. Most people ignored him, but Mia, with her adventurous spirit, couldn't resist the woods. Earlier that day, Mia had slipped into the trees, her sneakers crunching on leaves. She wasn't doing anything wrong, just exploring, humming to herself, unaware of Gerald watching from his golf cart. He'd been patrolling, his eyes narrow, looking for trouble. When he saw Mia, he smirked. Another chance to flex his power. "Hey kid," he barked, stepping out of the cart. Mia froze, her heart racing. Gerald was holding a bundle of zip ties, the kind he used to secure things around the neighborhood. "You're trespassing. You know the rules." I'm just walking," Mia stammered, backing up. "I'm not hurting anything." Gerald's face hardened. "Rules are rules." Before Mia could run, he grabbed her wrist, his grip tight. She yelped, but he didn't care. He looped a zip tie around her wrists, pulling it tight. The plastic bit into her skin and tears welled in her eyes. "Let me go," she cried, her voice shaking. "This hurts." "Stop whining," Gerald snapped. "You'll stay here until you learn." He dragged her to a bench near the community center, tying her to the armrest. Mia's sobs echoed in the empty lot, but Gerald just walked away, muttering about discipline. Back at home, Tom's worry turned to panic. He grabbed his keys and ran to his car, calling Mia's friends. None had seen her. He drove through the neighborhood, his eyes scanning every corner. When he reached the wooded area, he saw Gerald's golf cart parked near the community center. His stomach dropped. Tom sprinted toward the center, his heart pounding. That's when he heard it, Mia's cries. He rounded the corner and saw her, zip-tied to the bench, her face streaked with tears. Rage surged through him. "Mia," he shouted, rushing to her. She looked up, relief flooding her eyes. "Dad," she sobbed. "He tied me up. I didn't do anything." Tom's hands shook as he tried to loosen the zip ties, but they were too tight. "Who did this?" he growled, though he already knew. "Gerald," Mia whispered, her voice small. "He said I was trespassing." Tom's blood boiled. He pulled out his pocket knife and carefully cut the ties, freeing Mia's wrists. Red marks circled her skin, and she winced as he hugged her tight. "You're okay now," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've got you." But Tom wasn't done. He stood, his fists clenched, and scanned the area for Gerald. The man was nowhere in sight, but Tom wasn't going to let this go. "Stay here," he told Mia, guiding her to sit in his car. He dialed 911, his voice steady but furious as he explained what happened. The operator promised police were on the way, but Tom couldn't shake the image of his daughter tied up, scared and alone. He wanted answers. He wanted justice. 10 minutes later, tires screeched as 3 black SUVs pulled into the community center lot. Men and women in dark jackets spilled out, their badges glinting in the fading light. FBI. Tom's jaw dropped. He'd expected local police, not federal agents. The lead agent, a tall woman with sharp eyes, approached Tom and Mia. "Mr. Larson," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I'm Agent Carter. We're here about Gerald Baxter." Tom blinked, confused. "This is about my daughter. That man zip-tied her for no reason." Agent Carter's expression softened as she looked at Mia, who was clutching Tom's arm. "We know," she said. "And we're here to make sure it doesn't happen again. We have a warrant for Baxter's arrest." Tom's mind raced. "A warrant? For what?" Carter glanced around, ensuring no one else was listening. "Baxter's been abusing his power for years. Extortion, harassment, even assault. Your daughter's not the first. We've been building a case and this incident gave us what we needed to move. Mia sniffled, wiping her eyes. He's mean, she said quietly. He's always yelling at kids. Carter knelt beside her. You're brave for telling us, Mia. We're going to stop him. Tom's anger mixed with relief. He'd always known Gerald was a bully, but this was bigger than he'd imagined. The HOA president had been terrorizing the neighborhood, hiding behind his title. Tom thought of the complaints he'd heard, fines for minor violations, threats to families who spoke out. It all made sense now. Where is he? Tom asked, his voice low. We're tracking him, Carter said. He's likely at his house. Stay here with Mia. We'll handle it. But Tom couldn't just stand there. He wanted to confront Gerald himself. I'm coming with you, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Carter hesitated, then nodded. Stay back and let us do our job. The agents moved quickly, surrounding Gerald's house at the end of the street. Tom followed at a distance, keeping Mia close. The house was a 2-story with a perfectly manicured lawn, a symbol of Gerald's obsession with control. Lights were on inside and Tom could see movement through the window. Agent Carter knocked on the door, her voice booming. Gerald Baxter, this is the FBI. Open the door. We have a warrant. Silence. Then a crash from inside. The agents didn't wait, they kicked the door in, rushing inside with weapons drawn. Tom's heart pounded as he held Mia, shielding her from whatever was happening. Seconds later, Gerald's voice rang out, shrill and panicked. You can't do this. I'm in charge here. You're done, Baxter, Carter snapped. The agents dragged him out, his hands cuffed behind his back. His face was red, his eyes wild with defiance. When he saw Tom and Mia, he sneered. You think you've won? Gerald spat. This neighborhood needs me. Tom stepped forward, his fists clenched. You tied up my daughter, he said, his voice shaking with rage. You're lucky I don't. Mr. Larson, Carter interrupted, stepping between them. We've got this. Gerald was shoved into an SUV, still shouting about his rights. Tom watched, his anger slowly giving way to relief. Mia was safe. That was what mattered. Back at the community center, Agent Carter explained everything. Gerald had been running a small empire, using HOA fees to line his pockets and intimidating anyone who questioned him. The FBI had been watching him for months, but Mia's incident was the final straw. Her story, combined with others from the neighborhood, gave them enough for an arrest. He'll face charges for assault, false imprisonment, and more, Carter said. We'll need Mia to give a statement, but we'll make it easy on her. Tom nodded, his arm around Mia. What happens now? The HOA will need new leadership, Carter said. And we'll make sure the neighborhood knows what happened. People deserve to feel safe. As Agent Carter spoke, Tom's phone began buzzing with messages. Word was already spreading through Willow Creek. Neighbors were coming out of their houses, gathering in small groups, whispering about what they had just witnessed. The black SUVs and FBI agents had not gone unnoticed. Sarah Mitchell, who lived 3 houses down, approached Tom with her twin boys in tow. Tom, what happened? Is Mia okay? She asked, her face full of concern. Gerald tied her up, Tom said simply, his voice still shaking with anger. The FBI arrested him. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. I knew he was mean, but this. She looked at her own boys who were Mia's age. He could have done this to any of our kids. More neighbors gathered. Mrs. Chin, an elderly woman who lived across the street, walked over with her cane. She had always been quiet, but now her voice was strong. That man has been a monster for years, she said. My grandson was afraid to play outside because of him. Agent Carter listened to the conversations around her. She had dealt with cases like this before, bullies who used their small amount of power to terrorize entire communities. But it was always satisfying to see the relief on people's faces when the bully was finally stopped. Mr. Larson, Carter said, pulling Tom aside. We're going to need to search Gerald's house and office. We believe there may be more evidence of his crimes. Would you be willing to help us identify anything unusual you might have seen? Tom nodded. Anything to make sure he can't hurt anyone else. The next morning, Tom received a call from Agent Carter. Mr. Larson, we need you to come down to the FBI office. We found something in Gerald's house that you need to see. Tom arranged for his sister to watch Mia and drove to the federal building downtown. Agent Carter led him to a conference room where boxes of documents were spread across a large table. Gerald kept detailed records, Carter explained. It seems he was running multiple schemes. Not only was he stealing HOA funds, but he was also taking bribes from contractors and threatening residents who tried to speak out against him. She handed Tom a thick folder. These are complaints about Gerald going back 5 years. Parents reporting that their children were harassed. Residents saying they were fined unfairly. Some people even moved away because of him. Tom flipped through the pages, his anger growing with each story. There were photos of kids crying, reports of Gerald following families, even evidence that he had been secretly recording conversations at HOA meetings to use against people later. "This is horrible," Tom said. "How did he get away with this for so long?" "Fear," Carter replied. "He made people afraid to speak up." Many of the complaints were never filed officially because residents were scared of retaliation. Gerald had convinced everyone that he had more power than he actually did. Tom thought about his own family. How many times had he bitten his tongue when Gerald was rude? How many times had he told Mia to just stay away from certain areas instead of standing up to the bully? "There's more," Carter said. She pulled out a laptop computer. "We found this in his house." Gerald was taking pictures of children in the neighborhood without permission. Some of the photos show kids playing in their own yards. Tom felt sick. What was he planning to do with those? "We're still investigating," Carter said. "But it's clear that your daughter's case was just the tip of the iceberg. Gerald Baxter is a dangerous man who has been terrorizing this community for years." That afternoon, Tom sat down with Mia to explain what the FBI had found. He wanted to be gentle but also help her understand how important her experience had been. "Sweetheart," he said, "Agent Carter needs to talk to you again. They found out that Gerald has been mean to lots of other kids too." Mia looked up from her drawing. She had been sketching pictures of flowers and rainbows, her way of dealing with the scary experience. "Other kids like me?" "Yes," Tom said. "And because you were brave enough to tell the truth about what happened, they were able to stop him from hurting anyone else." Mia was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Will he come back?" "No, baby. He's going to jail for a long time. He can't hurt you or anyone else." The next day, a child psychologist came to the house to talk with Mia. Dr. Patricia Williams was kind and gentle, and she helped Mia understand that what Gerald had done was not her fault. "Sometimes adults do bad things," Dr. Williams explained. "But it's never because of anything the child did wrong. You were just playing and that's what kids are supposed to do." Mia nodded. "I was scared," she admitted. "That's okay," Dr. Williams said. "It's normal to be scared when someone hurts us. But you did something very brave, you told your dad what happened. That helped stop Gerald from hurting other children." Over the next few days, Mia began to feel better. She started playing outside again, though Tom made sure to keep a closer eye on her. Her friends came over after school and slowly her bright smile returned. Word of Gerald's arrest spread quickly through Willow Creek. The local newspaper ran a front-page story, "HOA President Arrested for Child Abuse and Fraud." The story detailed Gerald's crimes and praised the FBI's quick action. But more importantly, the story brought the community together in a way Tom had never seen before. Neighbors who had been living in fear for years suddenly felt free to speak out. A town hall meeting was organized for the following Saturday. Tom was surprised when over 200 people showed up, nearly every family in the neighborhood. Mrs. Rodriguez, whose family had lived in Willow Creek the longest, stood up first. "I want to thank Tom and Mia," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "Gerald threatened to have my family deported if we complained about him. We're American citizens, but he made us afraid anyway. What Mia went through was terrible, but it saved all of us." One by one, other residents stood up to share their stories. The Martinez family told how Gerald had fined them $500 for planting flowers in their front yard without approval. The Johnsons described how Gerald had followed their teenage daughter home from school, claiming she was walking suspiciously. Mark Stevens, a contractor, revealed that Gerald had demanded $2,000 in cash before he would approve a simple deck repair. He said if I didn't pay, he'd make sure I never got work in this neighborhood again. Tom listened to story after story, realizing that his family hadn't been the only ones living in fear. Gerald had created an atmosphere of terror that affected everyone. Agent Carter attended the town hall meeting to provide updates on the case. "Gerald Baxter has been charged with 23 different crimes," she announced. "These include assault, false imprisonment, fraud, extortion, and harassment. Based on the evidence we've collected, he will likely spend many years in prison." The crowd erupted in applause, but Carter held up her hand. "More importantly, we want to make sure nothing like this happens again. We're working with your local government to establish new rules for HOA leadership and to create better ways for residents to report problems." Tom stood up. "I want to help," he said. "What Gerald did to Mia and to all of us can't happen again. We need to make sure our kids are safe." Sarah Mitchell, the mother with twin boys, nodded. "I agree. Maybe we can start a neighborhood watch program, not to spy on each other, but to look out for each other." Mrs. Chin raised her hand. "My late husband was a lawyer. I still have his law books. I could help write new HOA rules that protect residents instead of giving too much power to one person." Dr. Patel, who lived near the community center, offered to donate space in his office for free legal consultations for residents who had been harmed by Gerald's schemes. Tom felt a warmth in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. This was what a real community looked like, people taking care of each other instead of living in fear. 3 months later, Tom and Mia sat in a courtroom as Gerald Baxter was sentenced. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, did not show any sympathy for the former HOA president. "Mr. Baxter," she said, "you abused your position of trust in the most despicable way possible. You terrorized children, stole money from hard-working families, and created an atmosphere of fear in what should have been a safe community." Gerald sat slumped in his orange prison uniform, a far cry from the intimidating figure he had once been. His lawyer had tried to argue that Gerald was just trying to maintain order in the neighborhood, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. "The court sentences you to 15 years in federal prison," the judge continued. "You will also pay $150,000 in restitution to the Willow Creek HOA and provide compensation to each family you have harmed." As Gerald was led away in handcuffs, he turned to look at Tom and Mia one last time. But instead of the sneer he used to wear, there was only defeat in his eyes. The bully had been broken. Outside the courthouse, Agent Carter shook Tom's hand. "Your daughter's bravery started all of this," she said. "Because Mia was willing to speak up, an entire community is now free." Tom looked down at Mia, who was holding his hand tightly. She had grown so much in the past few months, not just physically but in confidence and strength. "I'm proud of you, kiddo," he said. Mia smiled. "Can we go get ice cream now?" Tom laughed. "Absolutely." 1 year after Gerald's arrest, Willow Creek had transformed into the community it was always meant to be. The new HOA board, led by Mrs. Chin and including Tom as secretary, operated with complete transparency. All meetings were recorded and open to the public. No single person had the power to make major decisions. The wooded area that Gerald had declared off-limits was turned into a proper nature trail with benches and educational signs about local wildlife. Mia loved taking her friends there, and Tom often joined them for weekend hikes. A small playground was built near the community center, funded by the money recovered from Gerald's fraudulent schemes. A bronze plaque was installed that read, "Dedicated to the children of Willow Creek, may they always play freely and safely." Mia, now 13, had become something of a local hero. She spoke at schools and neighboring communities about the importance of telling adults when something wrong happens. Her message was simple: even if someone seems powerful, if they hurt you or make you scared, tell someone you trust. Adults are supposed to protect kids, not scare them. Tom had started a support group for parents whose children had been bullied. Every month, families gathered to share their experiences and learn how to better protect their kids while still encouraging them to be brave and independent. The story of Gerald Baxter's downfall became famous throughout the city. News programs ran features about how one girl's courage had exposed years of abuse and corruption. But Tom and Mia didn't do interviews or seek attention. They were content knowing that their community was safe. Dr. Williams, the child psychologist who had helped Mia, wrote a research paper about the case. She used it as an example of how children can recover from traumatic experiences when they have strong support systems and when they see that justice is served. Agent Carter was promoted and transferred to head a new FBI unit focused on community-level corruption. She kept in touch with Tom and Mia, sending Christmas cards and occasional updates about similar cases she was working on. The Willow Creek case became a model for other communities dealing with HOA abuse. Laws were changed to prevent any single person from having too much power over neighborhood associations, and new procedures were put in place to investigate complaints against HOA leaders. But perhaps the most important change was in the hearts and minds of the residents themselves. They had learned that standing together was more powerful than living in fear alone. They had discovered that bullies, no matter how scary they seem, can be stopped when good people refuse to stay silent. On the second anniversary of Gerald's arrest, the community held a celebration in the park that had once been his domain. Children played freely on the new playground while parents watched with genuine smiles instead of worried frowns. Mia, now a confident teenager, was helping organize games for the younger kids. She had grown into a natural leader, the kind who protected others instead of intimidating them. Tom watched his daughter with pride. The scared 12-year-old who had been tied to a bench was gone, replaced by a strong young woman who stood up for what was right. "Dad," Mia called out, "come play with us." Tom laughed and joined the group of children and parents playing a game of capture the flag. As he ran across the field, dodging kids and adults alike, he thought about how much their world had changed. The sun was setting over Willow Creek, just like it had on that terrible day 2 years ago. But now, instead of fear and worry, the golden light illuminated laughter, friendship, and hope. Kids played in the streets until dark, just as they always should. And Tom knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, his community would face them together. The fight for justice had been won, but more than that, they had built something even more valuable, a place where children could grow up safe, where neighbors looked out for each other, and where bullies could never again rule through fear. As Mia ran past him, her hair flying in the evening breeze and her face bright with joy, Tom smiled. This was what victory looked like. Not just the punishment of one bad man, but the creation of something beautiful and lasting. The fight for justice had become a fight for hope, and hope had won.